Welcome to Cafe Tales. Tonight our mystery unfolds in Switzerland. Land of punctual trains, shining lakes, and flowers that bloom as if on command. At the Hotel Splendid in Lucerne, however, something disturbs the perfect order. A cry of alarm, a vanished companion, and whispers that ripple through the corridors soon call Poirot into action. This is Poirot and the Collar of Intrigue, an original story written by us in homage to Agatha Christie. Creating these stories, writing, narration, and sound takes many hours each week. And here's the truth. Likes, comments, and subscriptions don't just flatter us. They directly affect how the channel performs and decide its future. Nearly 7 in 10 of our regular listeners still aren't subscribed. So if that's you, one quick tap makes all the difference. Now let the clocks tick. The Hotel Hush and Poirot begin Dart. Chapter 1. The Cat Who Vanished. The Hotel Splendid at Lucerne was, in my opinion, the very picture of order. The waiters glided about like chessmen. The clock struck with military precision, and even the geraniums in the window boxes seemed to have been instructed to bloom in straight lines. Poirot was in his element. Switzerland, Hastings, he murmured, stirring his chocolate with reverence. It is the paradise of the symmetrical soul. You breathe in harmony and exhale punctuality. I privately considered the place dull beyond reason. But before I could protest, a shriek arose from the writing desk. A large lady in violet silk flung up her hands in despair. My Minou, my darling Minou, gone stolen. The lounge erupted in whispers. Poirot rose à temps, immaculate as a wax figure, and bowed. Permit me. El Poirot, at your service, the lady dabbed at her eyes. Madame Heir of Paris, my poor Minou has disappeared, and he wears round his neck the key to my jewel casket. A key? I echoed. Yes, tied with a little ribbon. Without it, my emeralds are lost to me. Oh, monsieur, what shall I do? Poirot's mustache quivered. Calm yourself, madame. Cats may vanish, but they also reappear. It is their specialty. The manager hurried forward. Herr Vogel, a thin man with pans and a voice like a clock striking the quarter hour. The cat must be found. At 9:53, Madame left to purchase stamps. At 9:55, Mr. Blunt, the English golfer, entered. At 9:56, the Fräulein Novak still wrote her postcards. At 9:57, Emile carried away a tray. At 10 precisely, this calamity, Poirot inclined his head. An admirable timetable. We will interview. Yes. A small parade was assembled. The tall golfer, stiff as a lamppost. The severe Fräulein Novak, spectacles glittering. And Emile the waiter, whose mustaches belonged to another century. A chambermaid hovered miserably at their hour. Cats! Exclaimed the golfer. Scratched me yesterday. Beastly things. Unhygienic, said Fräulein Novak crisply. I have complained in writing. I love him, wailed Emile. I give him always cream. Perhaps too much. Poirot tapped his temple. You see, Hastings, each has motive, hatred, disgust, affection. It is curious how love and dislike both end in possession. Madame Aware wrung her hands. But Becky, the precious key. Ah, bien, said Poirot. Then it is not the cat we seek, but what hangs upon his neck. Courage, madame. Already I see that our holiday has taken a most interesting turn. Chapter 2. Whispered Suspicions. The commotion over Madame Auber's lament had spread through the hotel Splendid like spilled ink. By noon every guest knew that a cat had gone astray, and that said cat was reputed to wear around his neck a key of surpassing importance. The combination of feline and fortune was irresistible. As I passed along the terrace, I overheard an American lady remark to her companion, Say, Helen, even their cats are millionaires in Switzerland. Inside the lounge, the golfer, Blunt, was already holding forth. Dashed creature scratched me last evening, he proclaimed to a cluster of listeners. Told you it was vicious. Bound to run off. Fräulein Novak, seated stiffly with her postcards, addressed no one in particular. Animals in hotels are a scandal. Disease waits in their fur. She glared at a passing Pekingese as though it were armed. Emile, the waiter, overhearing, clasped his mustaches in horror. Mademoiselle is wrong. Minou is clean always. He washes. He is like a gentleman with soap. I confess I rather enjoyed the drama. For the first time since our arrival, something was actually happening. Poirot, however, took it with infuriating calm. He had retreated to a corner with Herr Vogel, the manager, and together they were constructing a chart of movements that resembled a battle plan. Every minute between 9:50 and 10 was accounted for. Vogel, I think, was proud that even a crime in his hotel could be timetabled. Mon cher Hastings, said Poirot, rejoining me at last. Already the shape of the matter is clear. Is it? I asked hopefully, but of course. Consider we have a victim, Madame Ware, though she exaggerates her tragedy. We have an object, the little key on the ribbon. We have witnesses who are also suspects. And at the center we have a cat who cannot speak, yet who scratches with eloquence. Well, I said, if you ask me, that blunt fellow looked guilty enough. A bad hat, Poirot wagged a finger. Always you English, you trust to the face. Non-Hastings I do not yet accuse, but I see already resentment, vanity, greed, and devotion. Each may lead to mischief. We must listen, observe, and above all, he tapped his forehead, think, I sighed. And what am I to do? You, Hastings, will be the ears of the hotel. You are popular, yes, people talk to you. You will hear the chatter. From chatter comes truth. Thus it was that I, Arthur Hastings, late of His Majesty's forces, found myself wandering corridors, nodding gravely at whispers about a millionaire cat, and fielding questions such as, do you suppose he swallowed the key? It was not exactly soldiering, but Poirot was satisfied. Bon, he said that evening. The stage is set. Tomorrow we question with order. Tonight we let the rumors grow. They will serve us, Hastings. They always do. Chapter 3. Poirot interrogates. The next morning dawned as immaculately punctual as everything else in Lucerne. The lake sparkled as though someone had polished it overnight, and the waiters delivered breakfast trays with military timing. Poirot, however, had no eye for beauty. He summoned our little collection of suspects to a quiet corner of the lounge, where the potted palms made a natural tribunal. Herr Vogel hovered nearby, looking as though he would rather conduct an audit. Mesdames, Messieurs, Poirot began smoothly, you will forgive me. It is my habit to arrange matters, to put them in neat order. So, a few questions only. Roland Blunt stood stiff and surly in his golfing jacket. Poirot regarded him with polite interest. Monsieur, the scratch upon your hand. It's recent? Yes, old one, Blunt snapped. Yesterday evening, Beast had a go at me when he passed him. Poirot's eyes twinkled. Curious. The edges are still red. Cats are artists, monsieur. Their signatures are unmistakable. Blunt scowled, but said nothing. Poirot turned to Fräulein Novak, who perched upright as if giving evidence before a medical board. Mademoiselle, you despise cats. Yes. Correct, she replied crisply. They spread infection. My sister died of influenza. Cats carry germs on their fur. Yet, Poirot said mildly, you keep a handkerchief embroidered with kittens. Sentimental, perhaps. Her mouth tightened. A gift. One does not throw away embroidery. Waste is also a disease. Poirot inclined his head unruffled. Now it was Emile's turn. The waiter wrung his long mustaches as though seeking inspiration from them. Monsieur, Poirot said, you tell us you love the animal. With all my heart. He comes to me in the kitchen. I give him a little cream. He trusts me. Poirot leaned forward. And yet, when the cat vanished, you alone were in and out of the room. Does it not seem strange? No, no, Emile cried. If I had taken him, would I not hide him better than behind the broom cupboard? I am clumsy, but not stupid. The chambermaid Liesel was called last. She trembled so violently she nearly upset a tray. You saw the cat in his basket? Poirot asked gently. Yes, monsieur. He was asleep like a prince. I smiled at him. He did not move. Poirot nodded thoughtfully. That, I believe, is the most accurate description of our Minou yet. When the interviews concluded, Poirot rose. Voila. We have heard them all, each has spoken truth. Yet each truth contains its little shadow. I was bursting to know more. You think one of them stole the key? Poirot smiled. Hastings, do not jump the fences like a horse. One of them knows more than they have said. Which one? That is the puzzle. Chapter 4. The Cat in the Pantry. That night the hotel was hushed. Even the gramophone in the lounge had been silenced, as though the missing cat cast a paw over the establishment. I, however, was restless. Poirot had retired early, declaring that the little gray cells work best when one's digestion is arranged like a timetable. Unable to sleep, I wandered downstairs and paused. From the direction of the service pantry came a peculiar scraping noise, followed by a muffled oath. Convinced I was on the brink of discovery, I flung open the door. There in the lamplight crouched Emile the waiter, mustaches drooping like wilted ferns. On the floor in front of him sat Minou himself, plump and entirely unrepentant, licking cream from his whiskers. Caught in the act. I cried. So it was you all along. Emile leapt up, horrified. Non, monsieur. I am innocent. He hides here himself. I coax him only. Always he hides when he is too full. I give him cream. He wrung his hands. It is my crime of kindness, not of theft. Before I could demand further explanation, Poirot materialized silently behind me, immaculate dressing gown buttoned to his chin. Ah. Hastings, you stumble upon drama again. Poirot, I exclaimed. Look, here is the cat and Emile with him. It's plain enough. Plain? Poirot's mustaches bristled. On the contrary, it is cloudy. Observe the sauces stacked in the corner. The cat is not hiding from danger. He hides from gluttony. There is a difference. At that moment, Madame Aubert swept into the pantry in a storm of violet silk, having been alerted by my outburst. Mon trésor, my darling Minou. She snatched him up, smothering him in kisses. See, I said triumphantly, all is well after all. Is it? Poirot's voice cut in, quiet but sharp. Regard the ribbon. We looked around Minou's neck. The little blue ribbon dangled loosely, but the key was gone. Madame Aubert gasped. Mon Dieu, the key stolen! The room seemed to freeze. Emile looked as though he might collapse. I felt a rush of embarrassment for having been so easily misled. Poirot alone remained composed. He lifted a finger as though correcting a schoolboy's sum. And so Hastings would advance. The cat is innocent of everything but cream. But someone, while Minou gorged himself, removed the key. The hand may have been bold, or it may have been cunning. In either case, the truth is closer than ever. He turned towards the door with sudden decision. Come, Hastings. We must return to the lounge tomorrow, for I see now the guilty one hides not behind scratches, but behind what we think too unimportant to notice. I followed him, baffled, and glanced back at Emile, who was still clutching his mustaches in despair. At that moment, I was certain the case was solved, that Emile had been caught with cat and cream together. But Poirot, of course, was already several moves ahead. Chapter 5. Poirot Explains. The following morning, Poirot summoned the entire little company to the lounge. Herr Vogel, flushed with both excitement and disapproval, arranged chairs as though for a concert. Madame Aubert entered, dramatically, Minou enthroned in her arms like a crowned monarch. Poirot took his place in the center, very neat, very solemn, as if about to pronounce a benediction. Madame, Monsieur, he began, the case of the vanishing cat is not so simple as it appeared. The animal, he is innocent. He ate too much. He hid and he purred. But someone during his indulgence removed the ribbon's key. The question was, who? Roland Blunt scowled. I told you, man, I never touched the beast. I've no use for women's baubles. Poirot inclined his head. Indeed, you're too visible, too obvious. You speak loudly. You move clumsily. A thief requires delicacy, monsieur. And you are, how shall I put it, without delicacy. Emile nearly burst into tears. But, monsieur, everyone thinks it is me. I feed him cream. Yes, but I would never rob him. Minou is my friend. Just so, Poirot said. You love the cat too much to betray him. All eyes turned toward Fräulein Novak. She sat rigid, spectacles glinting, expression severe. Me? She said sharply. Ridiculous. Yabor cats, Poirot bowed. And yet, mademoiselle, you were closest to the basket when madame left her letters. You claim disgust, but disgust is an excellent disguise. No one expects a woman who rails against animals to approach one. Yet you did. You slipped a hand, removed the ribbon, and took the key. Her lips pressed tighter. Nonsense. Why would I steal? Because, mademoiselle, your dislike of germs hides another truth. You are in debt. You sent a postcard to your cousin. Yes, in it you wrote not of weather but of money. I read the imprint of your pen upon the blotter. You intended to use the jewels, not for pleasure, but to escape your own misfortune. There was a silence, broken only by Minou's smug purr. Fräulein Novak's hands trembled at last. I only meant to borrow it. Just the emeralds, only for a week. Poirot spread his hands. A thief always means to borrow, but jewels they do not always return to their owners. Your illness of the mind, mademoiselle, is not germs but temptation. Madame Aubert gave a cry of triumph. So it was you. My poor Minou, my clever darling. Herr Vogel clapped his hands once. The police will be informed. Fräulein Novak stood pale and stiff. I despise cats, she muttered, and left the lounge without another word. Poirot turned to me. Mustache is shining. You see, Hastings, the golfer, too vious. The waiter, too sentimental. But the one who complains the loudest. That own is always to be watched. There is often a key in the hand of the hypocrite. I shook my head, still astonished. And to think all this over a cat. Not at all, Poirot corrected gently. It was never about the cat. It was about human weakness. The cat Minou was merely the stage upon which the drama played. And with that, Madame Aubert swooped down on Poirot, declaring him the savior of her jewels, while Minou, purring as though he had solved the case himself, promptly leapt onto my lap, leaving my trousers covered in white hair for the remainder of our stay. And so concludes Poirot and the Collar of Intrigue, a tale where a vanished cat proved less guilty than the people around him, and where a ribbon, a key, and human weakness told the true story. This mystery was written by us in homigedo Agatha Christie. Yet it is entirely our own invention. If you've listened until the end, then you are the reason these tales continue. Thank you for being part of this community. Your encouragement and your comments mean more than you know, and I'll spend time with them whenever I can. If you'd like to help us keep going, you can join the channel for ad-free listening and extras, or leave a small tip. But simply by being here, listening, sharing, and subscribing, you've already done more than enough. Until our next mystery, good night.